Hey everybody, what's going on, and welcome to Guns N' Roses Central. And before we get started with this week's news, I want to let you guys know about some interviews we did this past week on the channel. So yesterday on our live podcast, we interviewed Tyler Rosen, who's got an incredible YouTube channel. He does some amazing, fully instrumental covers of Guns N' Roses songs. So I've put the link to that interview down below in the description box in case you guys missed it yesterday. We also did an interview with Kelly Scott, who's in a band called Failure. They were a pretty big band back in the 90s, and then they reunited in 2014. He also played in a band called Dumpster. Now, Dumpster was an LA band that opened up 2 shows for Guns N' Roses in the early 90s. Guns N' Roses, before they started the Use Your Illusion tour, did a bunch of club dates, including the Warfield Theater in San Francisco and the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles. So Dumpster opened both shows for that band. And then later on, Kelly went on to audition for Guns N' Roses. So before Josh Freese got the job in 1998, Kelly Scott auditioned with the band, and he's really good friends with Frank Farrar and Chris Pittman. In fact, he played in a band that Chris Pittman was in, and he talked about how Chris Pittman got into Guns N' Roses and hired by the band. So we talked all about that stuff. The interview is going to go live on Wednesday. If you guys support us on Patreon, you already have access to the interview. And then we've got a major interview coming on Wednesday, which I can't reveal yet, but you guys will find out next week. So without further ado, let's get started with this week's news. So this article kind of came out of nowhere, and I think we're one of the first news sources to report about this. So apparently Izzy Stradlin gave a brief statement on the Guns N' Roses reunion. So yesterday, Wall Street Journal posted an article about how Guns N' Roses are raking in millions of dollars on the reunion tour, but they're missing Mr. Invisible, who they refer to as Izzy Stradlin. So they interviewed a number of people, including Izzy. They tried to reach out to the Guns N' Roses management, and they also talked to Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick, as well as Alan Niven, who once managed Guns N' Roses and managed Izzy's band, the Juju Hounds. So here's some interesting quotes from the article. I've put the entire article down below if you guys want to check it out. So according to Rick Nielsen, he said he wrote half the stuff referring to Izzy. And even Alan Niven said it was Izzy's effing band, referring to Guns N' Roses. And Duff even himself wrote in his memoir that Izzy was probably the most significant force in Guns N' Roses. So they actually reached out to Izzy, and they got an email response from Izzy basically saying, "The current GNR tour has been a great success for the guys. My non-participation was simply not being able to reach a happy middle ground through the negotiation process." Mr. Stradlin said in an email, "That's life. Sometimes things don't work out." He didn't respond to further inquiries. The Wall Street Journal also reached out to Fernando Labias, who is manager for Guns N' Roses, who declined to comment on tour negotiations, but said that Izzy is a dear friend. Now, there was even some more interesting tidbits from the article regarding when Izzy left the band. So it was announced in November of 91 that he had left the band, but Izzy didn't actually quit until on or around September 9th, 1991, a week before the Use Your Illusion double album was released. That was at least according to documents that the Wall Street Journal obtained. The rest of the article focuses pretty heavily on Izzy's band, the Juju Hounds, and what the recording process was like, and how Stradlin's sobriety was basically dealt with when it came to his other band members. So one thing that they talked about is how a tour with Keith Richards was basically offered to the Juju Hounds, but it didn't end up happening. And even Bon Jovi chased Izzy high and low to get him to open for Bon Jovi, but according to Alan Niven, it just didn't happen because Izzy at the time just wanted to play clubs rather than big arenas. However, they did follow up with representatives from Bon Jovi and Keith Richards, who said they didn't remember the details of those tours. They even went on to say that touring for Izzy wasn't very easy. They said a well-known addiction specialist, Bob Timmons, was hired to help Izzy stay clean. They said that he was still fighting off addiction even on the road. And they even said that Izzy's bandmates tried to respect his sobriety. So Charlie Quintana, who recently passed away, drank during a 1992 recording session with the Rolling Stones guitarist Ronnie Wood. For example, he put his red wine in a coffee cup. Mr. Quintana said in a 2016 interview he wanted a healthy band, referring to Izzy Stradlin. And even Jimmy Ashhurst remembered inadvertently upsetting Mr. Stradlin by smoking a joint on the tour bus. "I wish I could take that back, but I can't," he said. The article went on to also talk about the breakup of the Juju Hounds. So they said the Juju Hounds broke up in 1994 while recording its second album. The band members were working at the Caribbean Sound Basin studio in Trinidad, taking breaks to travel, surf, and scuba dive. Early that year, Mr. Ashford called in after a diving trip and was told that Mr. Stradlin had left the country. Confused, he eventually found Mr. Stradlin in a coffee shop in Copenhagen, Denmark. I don't think he appreciated being tracked down, Jimmy said. Mr. Stradlin wanted to get away from the pressures of the music business, current and former colleagues said, but they also cited the friction between Mr. Stradlin and Mr. Ashurst over drugs. Ashurst said later he became addicted to heroin, but not during his time with the Juju Hounds. So in his email, Izzy even commented on the Juju Hounds, saying the Juju Hounds were a great band. The article went on to talk about what Izzy's up to these days. They said that Mr. Stradlin wakes up early, mountain bikes, surfs, and travels with his longtime girlfriend, according to former Juju Hounds guitarist Rick Richards. He said that Izzy likes to be untethered. So if you guys want to read the entire interview, you can check it out in the description box below. So it was revealed this past weekend that rock journalist Mitch Lafon is going to be interviewing, or he's already interviewed, either one member or several members of Guns N' Roses. So the interview is going to go live on June 11th, 2018. He announced it on Twitter and said interviews this weekend, Poison, check, Anthrax, check, and Guns N' Roses is next. He said that he himself wouldn't be finding out who he'd be interviewing until yesterday. So we haven't heard anything else since that post. But some people are speculating that the reason Guns N' Roses are doing an interview is because they need to promote the upcoming Appetite for Destruction reissue, and maybe it hasn't been selling that well, and that's why they have to do some press. My guess is that the most we'll probably see Duff or Slash do an interview. I don't think Axl's going to be sitting down for an interview anytime soon, although I think it's hilarious that they're not going on Eddie Trunk's show. It also came out this week that there's going to be a new documentary about Randy Castillo. Now, Randy Castillo played with Ozzy Osbourne. He played with Motley Crue. He passed away in 2002, and his funeral was sort of the spark that ignited the band Velvet Revolver. So Guns N' Roses current and former members, including Slash, Duff McKagan, and Matt Sorum, will be interviewed for the new documentary. Other people who are being interviewed include Lemmy, Zakk Wylde, Lita Ford, Nikki Sixx, and the list goes on and on. I've put the entire article down below if you guys want to see who the people are being interviewed. But the documentary is going to be airing on June 15th, and it will be able to rent and own it on digital HD. So as we get more information about this, guys, I'll let you know. I really want to see the documentary. There's a trailer out for it, and you'll actually see Slash being interviewed in the trailer along with Duff McKagan. In other news, it looks like Guns N' Roses' upcoming Not in This Lifetime tour set list may have leaked online. So there was a post on social media that showed what appeared to be the rehearsal space at Mate's rehearsal studio, as well as the Guns N' Roses set list in the corner. So one of the members on the MyGNR forums actually blew up the picture and looked at what songs were on the set list. And surprisingly enough, Shadow of Your Love is not listed on the set list, and it's pretty much the exact same set list as Guns N' Roses have been playing over the last 2 years. But again, guys, nothing has been confirmed. We'll have to wait for Guns N' Roses' first show in Berlin this coming weekend. As you get more information on the story, I will let you guys know. But if you guys want to see the list of songs, I've linked to it down below. One thing to note is that it doesn't appear that Black Hole Sun was on that set list, so maybe they're not going to be playing it on the upcoming leg of the Not in This Lifetime tour. So news channel CNBC did a write-up about the $1,000 Appetite for Destruction Locked and Loaded box set and how they think a lot of people are willing to pay the money because there's so many Guns N' Roses fans out there. So I've linked to the entire article down below, but some notable quotes from the article include one saying that Guns N' Roses has gobs of fans across the globe who were teens or college age during the band's heyday, said Rafe Gomez, co-owner of VC Incorporated Marketing. Many of these Guns N' Roses devotees who are now adults have disposable cash to invest in the band's new release, he added. They interviewed one guy named Armin Shamuin. He's a professor of entertainment at the University of South Carolina. He pointed out that fans used to paying scalpers for last-minute concert tickets may not even bat an eye at the set's price. He said fans pay well over $1,000 on the secondary premium markets or those VIP experiences that many bands offer. And what was funny is they actually interviewed one guy who has seen the band over 200 times. So this guy they interviewed was the president of Hapkinson Real Estate. And if you guys, just for comparison, Guns N' Roses only did 192 shows on the Use Your Illusion tour. This guy's seen the band over 200 times. He said he's met its members and owns copious amounts of rare memorabilia. He said he's already pre-ordered his locked and loaded copy, which he told CNBC was an opportunity that he just couldn't pass up. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. I don't think I'm going to purchase any of the reissue box sets, but I may change my mind as June approaches. So the song Shadow of Your Love, which has been out for about 3 weeks now, has been moving up the Billboard mainstream rock songs chart. So it debuted at number 31 3 weeks when it first came out. Then it moved up to number 16 in its second week, and now it's moved into the top 10 Billboard mainstream rock songs chart. So it's number 9 right now. And as we keep going in the coming weeks, guys, I will update you on how the song is doing. I wouldn't be surprised if it hits #1 around the time that the box set is released. So this is a story for you fans who enjoy wrestling. I don't watch wrestling anymore, but I used to when I was a kid. So wrestler Elias covered Guns N' Roses' song Sweet Child of Mine at a recent WWE event. If you guys want to check it out, I've linked to the cover down below. Let's go into our next piece of news. We've got some Matt Sorum news. So the former Guns N' Roses drummer is going to be playing on Billy Gibbons' upcoming solo record, and there's going to be many other people appearing on it as well. So according to Gibbons, it's a real stripped down, gut bucket, raw and rough approach, he said, of working with different musicians. So if you guys want to see the entire article from Ultimate Classic Rock, it's going to be Billy Gibbons' second solo album. It's going to be called Big Bad Blues, and it's going to be released this September. We've also got some Guns N' Roses news on their Vivo channel. So if you guys have been following Guns N' Roses YouTube channel, they've slowly been releasing some new videos, although I use the word new loosely. They released a video for Yesterday's. They released a video, the alternate version of Sweet Child of Mine, and they also released the video for The Garden. So The Garden, for some reason, was never on their YouTube channel for years and years, but now it's finally on there along with Yesterday's, and you guys can watch it in ultra high definition. And then we also had an interview with Lenny Kravitz. So he gave an interview to Blowhard Eddie Trunk, and he talked a bit about Slash and growing up with Slash and playing with Slash on his album Mama Said, where Slash played on the two songs. One is Fields of Joy, and the other one is Always on the Run. He talked about how they met at the American Music Awards, and I've linked to that article down below if you guys want to check out the interview with Eddie Trunk. It's about an hour or so long. So our next piece of news concerns Slash's son's band, Classless Act. So they've announced another show they're going to be playing on June 2nd in Pasadena, California. In fact, they announced on social media that if you use a special promo code, which I've linked to down below, you'll get free entry to the venue. So they're playing on June 2nd at the Rose, Pasadena, and tickets are available via Ticketmaster, and you use the keyword Classless, you'll get free entry. So I've put the link to that below if you guys are interested. I did hear from Kevin. He saw Classless Act open for Steven Adler at the Whiskey, and he said they were a great sounding band. So that does it for this week's Guns N' Roses news. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hit the like button if you enjoyed that. Be sure to subscribe if you love Guns N' Roses as much as I do. And be sure to follow us on GNRCentral.com, where we cover the latest Guns N' Roses news as it's breaking. You guys can also go follow us on Patreon if you want to get exclusive access to interviews and hear who our guests are going to be before everybody else does. And you'll get exclusive access to Guns N' Roses True Story episodes before everyone else does, in addition to seeing what's coming up on our channel in the coming weeks. Thanks for watching, guys, and have yourself a good one.